Hey guys, so the last Fortnite video I made that was kind of like this was really long, and it took me way too long to make it. I was literally working on that for like 3 weeks. So what I'm trying to do with this one is make this a lot shorter, hopefully. So let's just get right into it. This time I'm looking into like the excitement for each new chapter of Fortnite and how I think that has been dropping for every new chapter. So we're just gonna call excitement like hype, okay? Like how hyped people get for each chapter. I feel like that level has been like dropping, you know? So I'm kind of interested in that, and I want to figure out like why that is, you know? Now, I mean, I guess this is kind of my opinion or something, but you know, it's kind of interesting. I don't know why, I just wanted to talk about this. So we're just going to start off with chapter 1. I mean, there's literally nothing. It just happened one day, so it's like 1 out of 10. There was no build up or anything at all, just plopped it out there. So that's not really important. Moving on, chapter 2. So the build up for chapter 2 was really good. Okay, so we had like a storyline going up through chapter 1, and then that ended off with a big live event, like the black hole event. Everyone knows that. In fact, it was such a big thing that it was only on the news for like a couple of days.
Players watched in
popular video game Fortnite
Because everyone thought the game was like shutting down, like had the whole black hole thing happen, and the game was shut down for like 2 days or so, and all you could see was the black hole and all that. And everyone was just like freaking out. It was building up the anticipation. No one had any idea what was going on. Many people thought like Fortnite was just gonna be gone forever. Like no one knew what was happening. Like it was crazy. And then chapter 2 launched, and it just went like ballistic. Like the player count, like the spike was like the only time it's ever spiked that high was Fortnite OG. Okay, like that's the only time it's ever spiked that high since like when chapter 2 dropped. Okay, like that, it was just insane. So hype for that chapter, easy 10 out of 10. And then they did a very similar thing for chapter 3, where they had the storyline building up, another incredible live event with like it was a second end event. You know, you had like the Cube Queen do her thing, the whole invasion, the last reality. There was the IO and the Sevens. This time it was actually a much better story this time. Maybe even a better event. I'm not too sure. I do prefer the first one personally, but this one was much more. It was a lot better visually. But then the old Highland, Then the whole island just like flipped over, and it revealed chapter 3, and then we were knocked out by a wave, just kind of floating in the water for a little bit. And then the next day, chapter 3 loaded up. So it's basically the same thing as the first one around, but like the wait time wasn't as long, and we already knew what was gonna happen. Like we already had a new chapter before, this is just another one. So it wasn't like as exciting as the first one, but it was still really exciting, because it's been 2 years since this has happened last time. So we're gonna give it like a 9 out of 10 for hype, you know? Like that's how excited people were for this one. Alright, so this is when things start to take a turn for the worst. So going into chapter 4, there was some hype. There wasn't much storyline stuff going on, but there was a big event planned, and there was going to be like some downtime, then going into a brand new chapter. So it should have been another 9 out of 10, just like chapter 3. But the live event bringing us into chapter 4 was the Fracture event, which, in my opinion, is the worst live event we've ever gotten. I know people hate the Prelude, and we'll get to that, but I think this is worse than the Prelude still, because the expectations for like a chapter-ending event were really high, especially considering the previous 2 were incredible, and this one just completely dropped the ball. It was just a little cutscene, 45 minutes of mini games, and then it played the trailer for the new season. And what's worse is that while it was happening, like 10 minutes before it ended or so, I was playing it and I just got kicked out and I couldn't log back in.
I'm at 27. I need 2 more. Oh! What just happened? Did it just kick me out? Please tell me it did not just do that. I just saw the home screen. What? No!
So yeah, it sucked. Absolutely just the worst event ever. It just completely wrecked everything. But even with a bad event, people saw the trailer, and it was really cool seeing chapter 4, you know, like that sort of thing. There's still a lot of hype for chapter 4, definitely. But the event really brought that down, so we're gonna give it an 8 out of 10 for hype. So then we get to chapter 5, And this one's interesting because it should have been higher than it actually was, but there were some things that happened that definitely like lowered the hype for it. And I think the main issue is the fact that Fortnite OG happened right before it, and while Fortnite OG was great, it definitely kind of stole all the excitement, you know? Like, if everyone was excited for Fortnite OG, no one was really that excited for Chapter 5. I mean, and they were, obviously, but Fortnite OG was, like, the big thing, you know? Like, that's what brought all the players back. And then it would have been great because we had a pretty cool end of chapter event with, like, the Big Bang. You know, it wasn't, like, it wasn't on the level of the previous, like, the first two end events, but it was still a pretty good event, and it showed off a ton of the new stuff. So you would think that would get people really excited for Chapter 5, and it did, to be fair. And so, like, I would put it maybe at, like, a 9 or so. But the fact that Fortnite OG kind of stole away a lot of the hype, and then there was the problem that they had to rerun the event 3 times that day when it happened. Or, I mean, there was, like, the first time, and then they had to do it 2 other times because a lot of players couldn't get in, so they played it 2 more times. But before the other 2 times played, after the first time, they just released the trailer for Chapter 5, so everyone saw what was coming, and, you know, it didn't look that great, and people weren't a fan of the new graphics, and, like, Peter Griffin, you know, and then Chapter 5 launched, and everyone was just mad at it for, like, the movement and all that sort of thing. So there was definitely still a lot of excitement for Chapter 5, but just, like, a really poorly timed, like, things happening definitely kind of messed with that. I think we're gonna go with, like, a 7 out of 10 for hype for Chapter 5. Like, I mean, I could say 8, but I really don't remember it being like that, you know? Especially just because it was another brand new chapter. And now, we're about to start Chapter 6 in, like, 2 weeks at the time that I'm recording this. And it's not looking too great, in all honesty. Because once again, just like last year, we've had Remix, which is stealing all the excitement, you know, going back to Chapter 2, people love that. And additionally, Chapter 5 was really controversial. People did not like Chapter 5. I mean, well, I can't say that for everyone, but there was some part of Chapter 5 that, like, everyone hates, and it was a really controversial chapter, and that definitely has kind of turned off people for Chapter 6, and it's messing with the excitement level for that. You know, and not to mention, like, the Prelude event was kind of hyped up to be, like, a pretty cool live event, and then it was just a concert. I saw a bunch of comments and people talking about saying stuff like, oh, we should have been nicer to Fracture, we need to apologize to Fracture. No, Fracture was still much worse. Like, the concert, like, the Prelude wasn't a bad event, it was just, we expected a lot more than we got. The Prelude was an underwhelming event, not a bad event. Fracture was an actually bad event. It was just really poorly done, and it could easily have been made so much better. The Prelude, I mean, I guess it could have been made better, but it was meant to just be a concert, and that's what it was. It was a concert, and then it brought us to Remix. Now, they could have done something more like the Marshmallow or Travis Scott thing. They have the characters, like, walking around, and it's actually, like, in the Fortnite game instead of, like, live in New York. I don't know why they did that, okay? So I'm not gonna say it was a good event. No, it wasn't a good event, but it wasn't necessarily, like, a bad event. It was still kind of cool to see it, I guess, you know? And it was just underwhelming, really. Not necessarily a bad event. Fracture was a bad event. The Prelude was just really underwhelming. And now we know that the, like, finale event or whatever, I think this one is going to be an in-game concert this time. But again, it's also going to be a concert. It's going to have the same guys as before, like Snoop Dogg and like Ice Spice, I believe, yes. And I think it's also going to have Eminem and Juice WRLD this time as well. So, I mean, that's probably going to be pretty cool. It should be a fun event. I don't know how it's going to go into Chapter 6, but they might just do the same thing. It opens up, like, a rift against the Chapter 6. Maybe they won't. No one really knows. So it's not looking great for Chapter 6. And not to mention, like, the whole storyline thing is, like, it's non-existent. You know, like, there was a storyline going throughout the previous chapter, but, like, when we went to OG originally at the end of Chapter 4, you had, like, there was, like, a storyline going on throughout that whole month where, like, Jones and Dr. Sloan were, like, working together. They're, like, audio recordings and things. They're reconstructing the rocket with the time machine, you know, keep people interested. There's, like, a reason to it. This time it's just like, oh, we had a concert and then we traveled back. It's just kind of weird, and it seems to me people really don't want Chapter 6 at this point, you know? Like, it's just not looking good. So, I mean, I'm gonna have to put the hype at the moment for like, I mean, I can't really say because the event hasn't happened yet, I guess, but we'll have to see after the live event happens. That'll be like the true test, see how excited people are. But I mean, honestly, it's looking like it might be like a 6 out of 10 for hype. I mean, they might be able to bring it up to a 7 if the event's good. Maybe an 8. I don't know how they would do that though. Like, and there's definitely no way it's getting up to like a 9 or 10. Like, that's just not happening. Like, the only way that they could actually get people excited for Chapter 6 is if they had some like big like announcement or something that just got people really, really excited for it. But I honestly don't know what that could be.